I've used a lot of meal services, but Hungry Root truly stands out because it's built around the way real families live and eat. They don't just send meal kits. They personalize your grocery cart and meal plan based on your preferences and dietary goals. All I had to do was take a short quiz, and right away, their smart cart technology started building a cart that fit how we eat. Now, each week feels easier, like someone else is doing the thinking for me. I've been focused on cleaner eating lately, and I love that Hungry Root keeps out over 200 additives, including things like high fructose corn syrup and artificial sweeteners. Their meats are hormone and antibiotic free, and the produce options include organic and non GMO picks. They also stock brands I already trust, like Oatly, Vital Farms, and Harmless Harvest. One of our favorite meals has been the teriyaki salmon with green beans, light, flavorful, and done in 12 minutes flat. Plus, I've noticed we waste less food, spend less time shopping, and even save money by skipping those impulse grocery buys. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/Dr. Meg and use code Dr. Meg. That's hungryroot.com/Dr. Meg. Code Dr. Meg to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/Dr. Meg. Code Dr. Meg.
Welcome to Parenting Great Kids.
Kids who are apathetic, who are satisfied by average, are kids who don't have purpose. Without purpose, you can be average. You don't even need to be alive if you don't know why you're alive. And character is a primary way that we meet those needs. If my security is, I am faithful, I tell the truth, I am dependable, and I love fairly, and my identity is I love and I'm responsible and I tell the truth, my belonging will be healthy. I'll be known as friendly and loyal and confident. And then I can fulfill purpose because my character doesn't get in the way.
Welcome to Parenting Great Kids. I'm your host, Dr. Meg Meeker, and today we're going to be talking about how to parent differently. Yep. My guest is Dr. Kathy Koch. She's the founder and president of Celebrate Kids, Inc. It's a Christian ministry based in Fort Worth, Texas. She's an internationally celebrated speaker who has influenced thousands of parents, teachers, and children in over, get this, 25 countries through keynote messages, workshops, assemblies, and other events.
It's a real honor to be here with you, Meg. I have the highest respect for you and all the influence that you've had.
Well, thank you very much. That goes right back at you. So you've written 7 books, and I had a hard time picking out, okay, which one are we going to talk about? But I would like to talk about the Parent Differently book because you talk about character in kids. And character in kids relates to everything they do and they see and how they interact with people. So talk to us about character. Are there specific character qualities that we should nurture in our kids?
So yes, there are certain character qualities that I would emphasize. In my book, I have an appendix of 48 qualities. And in addition to naming the quality that I think is significantly important, I list the negative qualities that would be the opposite of that. And I did that to try to help parents and grandparents discover which qualities they could be working on with their kids. Because I think sometimes we know what's wrong, but we don't know how to make it right. Character is something that marks us, Meg. It comes from Latin and Greek words in its origin, and it means to be engraved, to be marked, to be stamped upon. It is our reputation. And I say in the book, without apology, it is a more important reputation for children to have than popularity, good looks, how talented they are on the soccer field. This is what will carry them into their successes and into the influence that I believe God created them to have. It's so, so, so important. If we don't establish character for our children, in fact, I don't think they'll become who God intended for them to be. Right? He had a plan for their lives. He wanted them to become someone, to do something for his glory. And if we don't help them discover the heart and to become Christ-like, to have biblical character, it's not going to go well for them.
You have all these character qualities. I just wanted to read a few. Faithful, flexibility, forgiving, generous, gentle, helpful, hopeful, humble, integrity, others-centered. I believe, a lot of parents say to me when I say, what do you want for your kids? And they invariably say, I just want them to be happy. However, they can't be happy if they don't have well-developed character qualities. And we miss that. We think, well, I'll get them into this sport and I'll expose them to all these things and I'll give them opportunities. And once they grab onto something and find they like it and they're good at it, let them go and then they'll be happy. No, they won't, because that doesn't sustain them. So obviously, parents might feel overwhelmed in teaching their kids 48. So how do you recommend parents look at the character qualities and pick a few and then teach those to their kids?
Right. So certainly consider your child. If your child is impatient and that is the number one complaint that you have about him, then teach that one. Absolutely consider your children. What I've done in the book is created a list of a baker's dozen 13. I wanted 12. I wanted this neatly packaged 12, but I had to add number 13. And so I can quickly go through those. The first one is gratitude or being grateful. And I chose that partly because it's a parent virtue. We know in the research that people who are grateful are many other things. We're also joyful and content, satisfied, and being other-centered and many other things. I also chose gratitude because our technology world, I think you'll agree with me, has caused so many of us to be entitled. The one click of the button, the Amazon Prime, which I'm grateful for, but oh my goodness, we start treating God like Amazon Prime. We become so entitled and so prideful in our expectations of how we can get the world to work according to our design. And so we've got to teach kids to be grateful. I also chose it as number one, Meg, because it is a sign of spiritual maturity. Those of us who are truly Christ followers know that we have much to be grateful for, that God created us in his image for his glory, that Jesus died for us, that he would take our sins upon himself, that we have the gift of the Holy Spirit to guide us and mentor us, and yes, convict us when we sin. So gratitude should be the mark, the distinctive engraving, if you will, of the believer. So that's number one. Joy is number two, not happiness. Happiness is circumstantial. Happiness happens. And you're right that it doesn't live long in the spirit. It actually can manipulate us to make very unwise choices. It's why kids die. They text and drive because they have to be happy all the time and they need to let their friends know what just happened. And it's not healthy at all. But joy, which of course is permanent in our relationship with Jesus for the believer, joy will rule us. Joy will motivate us into those healthy things. And then I'll share the third one with you, and then I'll kick it back to you if you want to know the next three. But number 3 of the top 13 is self-efficacy. And this is a word people might not know, which is okay. It simply means that we are able to be effective on our own. It doesn't mean that we don't have authority, that we don't have the wisdom of a mom and dad walking with us. But children who have self-efficacy believe they can be effective. So if you say to a kid, go empty the dishwasher, and they throw a fit and whine and complain and wish it was a sibling's job instead, because the last time they filled the dishwasher, they put a glass in there that they weren't supposed to, but no one told them not to. They put the bowl in the wrong place, but no one taught them how to do it. So when they loaded the dishwasher and somebody walked by to inspect, or they emptied it and they were mad because the dishes weren't clean and there was a glass in there that wasn't supposed to be in there, this kid freaked out because he wasn't taught how to do it. He was told how to do it. And if you're not self-effective, you rely on always having an authority in the room and then not having confidence, always debating and arguing and whining. Self-efficacy and gratitude and joy, those 3 are the foundation of first-time obedience. Isn't that appealing? So kids who are obedient when they're told to do something, asked to do something, they know there's a policy or a rule in place. Kids who are able to be obedient the first time are kids who are grateful and joyful and who know how to be successful. I hope that's encouraging to our listeners.
It's very encouraging, and I never thought about that. We think about independence. We think about raising independent kids, but that's very different for having self-efficacy. I never thought about that. Take us into the mind of a kid, if you will, for a little bit. Do they want those things? Do they want to have self-efficacy and joy? Do they want joy over happiness, or can they understand the difference? What is it, and you write about this in your other book, Screens and Teens, that kids need? You say there are 5 needs in kids. What are those needs, and how does developing character in them help develop those needs?
The core need we all have, the first core need is security. Who can I trust? So are mom and dad available? Do they love and like their kids? Do they apologize? Are they responsible? Do they ask to be forgiven when they sinned against their kids, which requires huge humility? So security, and then identity. Who am I? And not who was I, not who do I want to be, but who am I when no one is looking? Belonging. Who wants me? You know what, Meg? If I have security and I know who I am, then I will know who wants me, and I will choose peer members who are healthy and good for me. And then that leads to purpose. Why am I alive? Why did God bother making me for such a time as this? If I have people to serve, belonging, I know who I am positively, identity, and I have people that I can trust to come alongside of me and help me become what I'm supposed to be, security, I will believe in my purpose, which results in number 5, which is competence. What do I do well? And I can do things well when I have purpose. Kids who are apathetic, who are satisfied by average, are kids who don't have purpose. Without purpose, you can be average. You don't even need to be alive if you don't know why you're alive. And character is a primary way that we meet those needs. If my security is, I am faithful, I tell the truth, I am dependable, and I love fairly, and my identity is, I love and I'm responsible and I tell the truth, my belonging will be healthy. I'll be known as friendly and loyal and confident. And then I can fulfill purpose because my character doesn't get in the way. I have effort and diligence and perseverance, and I'm teachable. So therefore I can discover my purpose. And then competence, again, effort, diligence, patience, kindness, joy, resiliency, one of the top 13 qualities. So character is a primary way that we meet our needs as adults and that we can help our kids meet their needs. And it is going to set them up to be more obedient as well, because it's not a rule following thing that has to happen when somebody's watching me to either reward me or I'm going to avoid punishment. No, it's something that goes with them wherever they are.
Really, what you're talking about, kids want this, kids need this, but it's so dependent on a parent to nurture these in their kids and to give them to your kids. But it's, as I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm thinking of some of my patients, I think that's great. That's great. But so much depends on a parent's behavior. I will say that. And there are a lot of places along the way where a parent can mess up and really do harm to a certain character development. I think about the dishwasher. Okay. If you never taught your kid how to load a dishwasher and he loads it and then he runs it and you come by and criticize him for how he loaded it, why in the world should he want to load it again? So can you talk about some key things that parents need to do to nurture character and to fill their kids' needs? And what are the most common mistakes parents make in preventing their kids? Those are 2 questions. So let's just start with the first. So what are the keys that parents need to do in order to get their kids where they want them to be? Find purpose, for instance.
Kids do want this. So you asked that twice, and I apologize for not really answering that before. Kids tell me on a regular basis they don't want to be whiny, they don't want to complain, they don't want to be disagreeable. And then this is when they say to me, Dr. Kathy, could you help me? Could you teach me how to be the kid my mommy wants me to be? Kids told me when I was working on the book, things like they tell me what to do and they yell at me when I don't do it. I wish they would teach me how. So I do think kids are drawn to this. This is what I believe, Meg, that we're given the need for security, identity, belonging, purpose, and competence because God meets those needs. And it's the way that we find him. It's what draws us to him. So when a parent models before their children that joy is more satisfying than happiness, and it's a consistent part of who they are, kids will want that. When a parent talks about, I'm so glad I was created on purpose. Look, my supervisor at work chose me to do this project. And he said I was uniquely designed to be the one to do it because I'm analytic with details and I'm also people smart and I can relate well to the people on the team. And the kids are going to be like, what, Daddy? Was I created on purpose? So we have to use the language because I think kids are drawn to words. I think words draw from people, what's hidden within. I ask kids on a regular basis, what's your Esther moment? Why were you created now for such a time as this? What are your gifts and your talents and delights? What breaks your heart? What brings you joy? lean into that. For children, Meg, and a lot depends on a lot, right? But I would say in a general sense, I think children are created to love and to live. And school is a huge part of that. So I tell kids that it doesn't say in the scripture that Jesus came that they would have an abundant school experience. John 10:10 says that, Jesus went to the cross for us that we would have an abundant life. And so I love telling children that school is a part of that. And the purpose of school is to get you ready for life, not to get you ready for more school. So there's life lived out there where you get to figure this out. I talk to kids about hanging out with the right people because we become like the people we hang out with. So who are you following on social media? What lyrics are you listening to? What shows are you binge watching? What peers are you hanging out with at school or in a family, in a homeschool co-op? What about the youth group at church? Have you looked for the lonely kid and sat next to him because it'll help him and make you feel better? That's what your purpose is to love well and live well and to put God on display. Isaiah 43 verse 7 and other places, we know becoming like Jesus and showing off God's goodness, right? That's what he wants from us. So when kids understand, it's not career. Now, is it obedience? Oh, absolutely. Obedience is a primary way that we put God on display, and we prove that we have the Spirit in us to direct our thoughts. So teaching the character qualities, one of the things I'll say, and then I'll kick it back to you, I believe that stressing character is more important than stressing obedience, because children have told me that obedience is rule following and they don't always know the rules. So therefore they feel helpless and hopeless, which means they won't succeed. They also believe that obedience requires that someone is watching them to either reward them or so that they'll be good so they'll avoid the punishment. But character transforms the heart, goes with them wherever they are, no matter how old they are. And Meg, in every disobedient action, there is unhealthy character. So let's say that someone's listening to us and their kid argues a lot, right? They argue and complain. Well, that's rooted in pride, a lack of flexibility. Arguing is rooted in selfish self-centeredness, not other-centeredness. Arguing is almost always rooted in a lack of compassion. So if rather than, because everybody listening knows that you can say to a kid, stop arguing. Would you just stop arguing? And that doesn't necessarily help, right? But what if we instead observe the situation and look for a pattern? What causes the arguing? Is it jealousy? Is it fear? What's causing it? We can observe longer, listen more intently, look with, not judgment eyes, but helpful eyes, if you will. Then we have a conversation and we talk to them about the heart issue that's causing the arguing. And that's what we talk about. And that's what we begin to do as we begin to teach the qualities. Man, I hope that makes sense. That was a mouthful.
It does make sense. And this is what I love about you. There's nothing sort of surface. You dive deep. That's what I like, because I like to dive deep as well.
I have to take a quick break, but before I go, I want to invite you to visit drmegmeeker.com, where you can find a plethora of resources for your parenting journey. Explore our courses, join our free coaching webinar, and take our parent personality quiz. We'll be right back. You know that moment when your child lights up because something finally clicks? That's what every parent wants, to see their child thrive. But when school just isn't the right fit, that joy can fade. That's why I want to tell you about K-12 powered schools. These are tuition-free, accredited online public schools for kindergarten through 12th grade. They're designed to meet your child where they are, so they can learn at their own pace, in their own space, and a curriculum that fits their unique learning style. And here's what sets it apart. This isn't homeschooling. You're not the teacher. K-12's state-certified online educators are trained to make lessons interactive and engaging using innovative technology. And your child still gets social experiences, clubs, extracurriculars, even in-person events. K-12 has helped over 3 million families give their kids the tools to thrive, and they've been doing it for more than 25 years. It could be exactly what your child needs. Visit k12.com/Dr. Meg to find a tuition-free K-12 powered school near you and enroll today. That's k12./DRMEG, all caps. Some days, parenting feels like chasing moments that never quite land. You ask a question, they shrug. You try again, they look at their screen. And you wonder, why is this so hard? That's why I love FamGabs. It's a 70-card deck created by a child therapist who spent 16 years working directly with families, helping parents and kids break through the awkward one-word answers and really connect. The questions are open-ended, thoughtfully chosen, and designed to get your child talking and keep the conversation going. There are even bonus cards just for parents to help you build your confidence in your connection toolbox. If you've ever wished for a better way to understand your child or just to have more meaningful conversations as a family, FamGabs is such a gift. Search FamGabs on Amazon and use promo code Dr. Meg Pod during checkout to get 10% off your order. That's FAMGABS on Amazon. Use promo code Dr. Meg Pod and get 10% off your order.
So let's talk about the argumentative child, the kid that talks back to their parents. They fight with their siblings, say they're 10 years old. And I've always sort of thought, well, the child who just won't listen and parents are reprimanding over and over and over and over, you get in this cycle of sort of negative behaviors. Aside from bad character, why is that 10-year-old constantly talking back to parents when another sibling is nice as can be? Is it a personality thing? Is it a parenting issue? What is it?
It could be a parent. It could be a lack of connection to that one parent. Not all the kids argue with the mom and a dad, as an example. I believe a lot of argumentative kids are logic smart. I've written a book about how kids are smart in 8 different ways. Those of us who are logic smart, we are solution focused. We see the problem and can fix it before somebody else knows it's there, which is not necessarily a good quality. Logic smart kids want faithfulness. They see the hypocrisy very quickly. Logic smart kids want the world to make sense. So when a mom says go to bed and the kid isn't tired, they're like, why? Elizabeth gets to stay up, right? Why do I have to go to bed? So why? And parents assume that those questions are coming from a heart of disobedience. They may not. They may be coming from a heart of, I just want to understand. And a lot of kids have told me it'd be so much easier if I understood.
Exactly. And I have found that as well. Kids want to be understood. And particularly with bright kids, if you just constantly say, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, like whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
No.
And it doesn't work. And, but to understand and get through to kids like that. So are you saying with that 10-year-old who's arguing and talking back to parents that you should sit down and explain why you're asking them to do certain things? And because if they're logic oriented, why you're asking them to take out the trash and why you're asking them or telling them to go to bed at 8:00 or whatever, will that diffuse some of the back talk?
It can. Again, there's no guarantee that it will immediately work, but it can. Kids want to be heard and they want to be seen. And when they're ordered around, they certainly don't feel safe. So maybe it's a conversation. Why do you think I'm asking you to go to bed? Well, it's bedtime. Well, there's another reason. Oh, I was just complaining and acting tired, wasn't I? So, Mom, are you doing that because it's best for me? I mean, wouldn't you love to parent the kid who says, if I get a good night's sleep, I'll have a better day tomorrow? But that's true, right? They don't understand that we know when they're tired. How many of us have had a kid say, I'm not tired, and 5 minutes later, they're sleeping? They don't feel it. They don't know what fatigue feels like. They don't know what thirst feels like, which is a huge conversation we could have. And you know that as a pediatrician. Oh my goodness. So I think a conversation is sometimes in order. Also, I will say, Meg, and I think you will agree with me, that if you have a kid who has not been arguing, let's just stick with bedtime. They've been compliant. They know it's time to put on their PJs, get their 2 stories and go to bed. If they start to argue and all of a sudden, they might be telling you that you need to extend their daylight hours. They don't know enough to say, I'm older now, Mom, let me stay up 15 more minutes. So one of the reasons they argue is they really are not tired. And maybe it is time. Maybe go, I haven't raised his bedtime. I haven't changed his bedtime for a whole year. And so now 20 more minutes, 15 more minutes, you try that out. You see if he's obedient to that. Sometimes it's a jealousy issue with teenagers in the home. And you got to say, look, he is 7 years older than you. His brain is different than yours. He's still working on his homework. When you're his age, you'll get to stay up too, but you won't want to because it'll be all about homework,
Don't we wish that kids were far more rational than they are? But they aren't, because that's the way their brains are sort of created. If you could pinpoint, 3 of the top mistakes parents make in raising kids of strong character, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, and I know there's more than 3, but what are those mistakes? Because as good parents, my listeners really want to do the right thing. And sometimes we do the wrong thing, but we don't realize it's wrong. So what are those?
That's such a powerful question. Let me continue with this illustration we were just using, because I want to give your listeners permission to say to your children, go to bed. So although you and I were just saying that sometimes you sit down and have a conversation to explore why are they disobedient all of a sudden now with this issue, whether it be bedtime or curfew or food or playing nicely with the sibling. Sometimes the parent needs to exert that authority, which I hope is earned because they trust you. And you look them in the eye or not, and you say, it is bedtime. It has been bedtime this time for months now. You know what to do. I said, and you will do it. Go to bed. A mistake we make is we give in because we're tired. So a mistake is that we don't take care of ourselves. And I don't say that lightly. You guys, parents are busy today. And I love that you're intentional. I pray you are, and involved and living on purpose in your own life. And yet I would say to you that marriage and parenting, before career and even before ministry. So are you sleeping and eating well and drinking enough water and having enough rest and playing the game that you want to play so that you're relaxed, et cetera, et cetera. So I think a mistake we make is we don't prioritize ourselves. A mistake we make is that we give in because we want to be a friend to our kids. And I will say to you, and I will say this until the day I die, friendship is later. Friendship comes later, but you're the parent. And you can parent with great boundaries, and they can love you and like you. It doesn't have to be an argumentative fest every day. If you've earned the right to be trusted by your consistency, I think a mistake that parents make is they don't apologize. And I don't say this lightly, Meg. I think many parents who are listening are doing the very best they know how to do. And praise God for your podcast that allows them to get, insight into how to do things better. Way too many kids have told me through the years, Dr. Kathy, my parents don't apologize to me. And they certainly would never ask to be forgiven. And then this is what they say to me, Meg. Remember, I'm the founder of Celebrate Kids. So when they say this, I want to go find the parent. Because what they say to me is, do they not apologize because they think that they're perfect? And of course, if you think you're perfect, you're lying. You're not self-aware. And if you don't admit to your children that you have flaws and you sin and you make mistakes, then they don't feel safe coming to you when they make mistakes. And that harms your relationship. And the other thing that they say to me, Meg, is they say, do my parents not say they're sorry because I'm just a kid? Meg, these are children created the image of God for his good and his glory. And they're your children, whether through birth, adoption, fostering, and God ordains the family. You're the perfectly imperfect parent for perfectly imperfect children. And I think a mistake we make is we're not vulnerable. We're not transparent age appropriately. And we try to be perfect. And we don't apologize. And that is not a healthy way to relate to kids.
Boy, oh boy, do I see that over and over, that parents don't want to apologize to kids. And I don't mean to pick on dads, but often dads, because they don't want to look like a failure. Doing things very well is very, very important. Of course, it is to mothers too, but we wear so many different hats that, at times we fail in one or the other. I wonder too if parents don't want to apologize to their kids because they don't want to abdicate authority. They feel that if I apologize to my kid will see me as weak, and then they're going to run all over me. Does that happen?
Yeah, that I hear that all the time. I think, Meg, that an apology makes you human. An apology makes you relatable. An apology makes you approachable. An apology shows that the kid is like you in a sense, and there doesn't have to be this big disconnect. There are reasons that I wrote a book with the subtitle "Biblical Character" and not Christ-like character. There's reasons for that, and there's several, but I'll share with you right now. that kids don't think they can be like Christ. They don't like the Christ-like idea. They're like, no, Jesus was perfect. I'm not. I can't be like Jesus, Dr. Kathy. That's just frightening to me. So we have to come down and be human here on earth. And to say to our kids, and I know what I've seen happen and what I've read is that our vulnerability increases our authority. Now, it's age appropriate. It's not all the details. There's one-on-one, not all the siblings with you. I mean, there's ways that you do this well. And I'm not saying you always do it, but I will say to you as parents that if you do not admit, so true story real quick, somebody read my book, a dad read my book, went to work, had a normal day, except at 3:00 there was a knock on the door. And the supervisor stopped by and asked for the 2:00 report. There was a report due at 2:00. The guy totally spaced and didn't do it. Comes home from work, says to his kids, how was school? And they say, how was work? And he told the truth. And he said, I did not have a good day. Supervisor knocked on my door at 3:00, and I knew quickly why he was there. I had totally spaced on a report. I did what you sometimes do. I did what I wanted to do, not what I was supposed to do. I had to apologize. And guess what, Jacob, I'm going to have to miss your soccer game tonight because I have to stay in and finish the report. And I'm embarrassed about that. I'm sad for you. I disappointed you. I'm going to have to earn back the trust of my supervisor. I'm afraid he's not going to choose me for a project that I think I would have been chosen for because I've now shown him that I'm not trustworthy. So guess what I've done? I'll show you on my phone. I've set a 2:00 alert every Tuesday as a reminder that it's due. And I've set a 2:00 every Monday as a 24-hour reminder to get it done because I don't want that to happen again. It was not a good experience. Let your kids know, because you know what? One of the main ways we teach character is consequences. One of the main ways we teach character is consequences. The fact that I forgot, that I wasn't diligent to keep working on something, there's a consequence for that. If you gossip and now all of a sudden your friends aren't talking with you, that's the consequence of gossip. They're not bad, mean kids. All of a sudden you made a choice, not to call it a choice. You made a choice to gossip and therefore they're not trusting you. You made a choice to disrespect. You made a choice to lie. Therefore, I'll check up on you all the time until I see consistent truth. So consequences are a key way that we can teach these qualities to kids. And I think that starts with us as examples of both good, the consequence of joy. What did it feel like to have joy when nobody else in the room had it, et cetera? I could go on and on. Make sense?
I love that you talk about consequences for positive things and negative things, because so often we really focus on the negative because it seems that parents are so busy. We're just trying to get through the day and we're just trying to help our kids not make too many mistakes. We only have a couple minutes left, and I know this is opening a whole can of worms, but I know that you can answer my question in under 60 seconds. Screens and let's talk about phones. Okay. You wrote a whole book on screens and teens, and screens and teens connecting with our kids in a wireless world. Wow. Doesn't every parent want to connect with their kids? But over and over, parents will say, how old should my kid be to give them a phone? And I'm scared to death about giving my kid a phone. Yet, I've never seen a parent who wants to give their kid a phone. Okay. They all say, I'm scared to, I don't want to. What do I do? And then you would say.
So when I'm asked, when should I give my kid a phone? The answer is when they need a phone, not when they want it, not when everyone else in their classroom has one, but when they need one. So if your child is going to babysit next door and there's no landline, she needs a phone, but she doesn't need her own phone. There could be a sibling phone that the kids get to sign out when they need a phone. If your son is going to, do an overnight camping with 2 or 3 guys, maybe he gets the phone that night. He has to sign it up and be responsible. And when they prove that they're responsible, then maybe they will get their own. But if you pay for it, it's not theirs. So you still say, here's a phone I've bought for you that I will let you use until such a time as I determine that you cannot use it well. So when they need it, and that's what we teach kids from the get-go. If you have a rule in your family, no phones at the dinner table, which is a great rule, but dad might have a sudden business trip because a colleague is not feeling well, he gets to keep his phone on at the dinner table because he'll have to make a sudden change of plans. You teach want and need from the very beginning so that they understand that just because they're 13, 14, and by the way, just because a sister got a phone at 16 doesn't mean the younger brother gets a phone when he's 16. If he's irresponsible, impulsive, doesn't have the social network that maybe the sister had or purpose to have it, he doesn't get one. Purpose-driven
social media and video games, because there's a difference between giving a phone that doesn't connect to the internet, like a Gab or Gizmo, and then there are phones that give kids 24 hours a day connection to the internet. When should a kid have that? And then when should boys be able to play video games?
Yeah, those are such great questions. Yeah, we're fans here of phones that do not connect to the social media. There's no internet, no app store. I think in most cases, I think that boys and girls begin to get freedom while they're still living at home so that moms and dads can really supervise. So maybe the year before they're going to launch into either a gap year, a mission, volunteer, military, college, tech, trade school. Maybe that depends on a lot of situations so that the parent can observe. Are they handling it well? Are they staying up until 2 in the morning? Is it on the charging station, but you find out your kid woke up at 3 and went and got it? Then you, of course, take the phone away. I think, gaming can start at age, 6, 7, 8, if it's a healthy developmental game for learning the shapes, although all the research says they don't retain what they learn on a device. So I actually would not recommend that. But there's all kinds of gaming that happens. I think games that they play with somebody next to them on the couch with like a dad, I think that's great. Potentially always in balance. I'd rather have them do a board game and go kick a soccer ball. But if you want your kids to learn responsibility and how quickly they get sucked into the adrenaline rush, then start it at home and let them mark the time and go, Dad, we played for 70 minutes. It felt like 10. I have homework to do. Let them discover in the safety of your home the consequences of the choices they make. Certainly, be a friend with them. If they're on gaming or social media, you have to be their friend. You have to be in control. You have to have systems in your home to control. And yet you have to know when they go to their friend's house, the same systems aren't there, which is why you train the heart. You train the heart for righteousness. You train the heart to want what is good and pure and not that which is bad and evil, so that they will not do it even when they could, because they don't want to.
And that takes time. I am just such an adamantly opposed social media because firsthand, I've seen the trouble in girls, young girls. There's so many 12 and 13-year-old girls walking around out there with a phone in their hands. And I tell parents, when you're ready for your kid to see porn, to be at risk for being sex trafficked, and so on and so forth, then you can give them free access to the internet 24/7. But so many parents cave because the kid's friends do it, and they don't want their kid to feel on the outs. So do you, from a kid's perspective, and I'm sure you've talked to kids about phones and screens and so forth, what do kids say why they really want social media, and how do they feel about it, and how do you coach them when it comes to screens?
Yeah, thanks for asking. They don't want to be left out. They feel like the odd man out. None of us like that feeling. So totally get that. So I talk with them and I reason with them about, again, parental authority. And I share stories sometimes of what I know to be true about how easy it is to get sucked into the muck and to lose your life, and you lose your time. And it's just a very, very dangerous thing. You and I both know of people who have flunked out of school because they were, gaming and scrolling social media so much that they didn't care about anything else. So I talk about good uses and unwise uses of it. I talk about limits. Here's the thing: when a family implements policies that I recommend about 2 days a week of no tech at all and other kinds of things, the kids write me back, or the kids tell me through their parents they like themselves better. When I do events where the phones are not allowed, I'm a Summit faculty member as an example, and they have limited use of devices there. And I ask the students, how many of you like yourself better this week without the phone? And almost every hand goes up. You know why it is? It's I can focus on the people in the room. It's a lack of comparison and competition. So the other thing moms and dads have to do is teach our kids who they are inside, who God made them to be and why, so that they're less likely to go with the comparisonitis of social media. They have to stand on their own. And this is where, I used to say I was too tall. I'm 6'1". I used to say I'm too tall. I had a little 5-year-old boy. I was telling my story. Little 5-year-old boy said, "Lady, you're not too tall. You're very cool tall." Meg, every time I think I'm too tall, I'm dishonoring God's creative intent. We cannot let our children dismiss themselves. And that's what happens on social media. The use of filters and the use of, and this is why women and this is why moms and dads don't invite friends over after church for lunch. My house doesn't look like a Pinterest house. No house looks like a Pinterest house. It's all photoshopped and made up. Meet in a park with pizza. It's not about, but what we've stopped hospitality, we've stopped so much love because we, even whose brains are finished, have bought this lie that we're supposed to compete with something. It's very sad. This is what we teach our children. This is what I tell parents to tell their kids, we love you too much to allow it to happen. We love you too much to argue with you. We love you too much to give you a phone. We love you too much to let you stay up so late because it's not good for you. And we will take good care of you. Doesn't matter if you like it right now. You're going to like it later. You may never say thank you. It's not about that. We're doing what God told us to do. And you're our kids. And we're so glad that you are. And we pray that sooner rather than later, you will believe us that it's good.
One of the things I love, Kathy, about your work so much is the kid mind and the kid heart, and the parent mind and the parent heart. So you have the ability to sort of tie them together because you can't know just one. You have to know what the kids want, what they want to say to their parents, and then what parents really expect and hope for their kids. And we do live in a very, very tough world. My guest has been Dr. Kathy Koch. Her wonderful book we've been talking about today is Parent Differently, Raise Kids with Biblical Character That Changes Culture. And her other fabulous book, she has 7, but here's 2 of the best, Screens and Teens, Connecting with Our Kids in a Wireless World. I can't tell you how grateful I am for your work, Kathy, because you're a great resource for me, because a lot of times I can see these problems, but getting the fix right is really, really hard. So I know that a lot of our parents out there got a lot from what you were talking about today. So thank you so much for your work and for joining me today on our podcast.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I loved our conversation.
As we wrap up today's episode, remember that you can stay connected with us by visiting us at meekerparenting.com. And for all of you parents, I want you to know I'm so excited about a brand new program that I started on coaching dads. So if you're a dad who needs a coach, or you're a mother who wants your husband to be coached, check it out, meekerparenting.com. And always remember that great kids are raised, not born.